The Oklahoma City Thunder select Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga University.
What a pass. Giddey underneath for JRE. The reverse and the rookie-to-rookie action. SGA defended closely by Westbrook. Tough. Step back. Gets up the shot. Banks it in for the lead.
This is Udart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
What is up, and welcome to the Uncontested Podcast, coming to you live Sunday, October 23rd. We are a proud part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and part of DailyThunder.com. I am your host for the evening, Jacob Niffen. I've got two guys that I saw 24 hours ago. Justin Peabody.
Hello, everybody.
And we've got Tayler Peterson.
Hey, that was a 8 p.m. tip. We were still not finished with the game at this point.
This is true. That's a good point.
Very true. Very true.
Crazy.
7 p.m. tip on tonight's game against the Timberwolves. I did
Even
not
though
know
Jacob
this
thought it was 6
until about 5. So my dad and I was going with my dad to the game tonight, and I was running behind. I had a whole bunch of stuff going on this morning, and I was like, I got to get to the gym and get a workout in before I go to the game. So I brought my clothes with me so I could shower at the gym and just meet my dad and go. And I was like, I got 45 minutes. I'm going to superset these legs and just kill myself and then go to the game. And then I saw a tweet from Valley that said coverage starts at 6:30. And I was like,
6:30.
So I looked at the schedule and it said 7 p.m. And I was like, there's a typo. Every Sunday game is at 6.
Uh-huh.
And I knew Nick was going to be at the game tonight. So I called him and I was like, what time does the game start? 7 o'clock. I was like, dude, screw me. This sucks. So I slowed my workout down.
Got a nice power lift in though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
took my
that's
time.
right.
Took my time. Wish the game started at 6, so it could have gotten over earlier because that was ugly.
That was ugly.
The Thunder play the Minnesota Timberwolves for the second time in a week. They lose this one 116-106. And boys, it was not that close.
No, it was not. We had a nice little garbage time run at the end of the game.
Very much so.
That shrank that lead, but it got bad fast too.
Mm-hmm. Beginning of that fourth quarter,
fast.
it just snowballed.
I actually, not to jump straight into game recap, but there was a barrage of 3-pointers for the Timberwolves, so I went back to the box score and counted it. Early in the fourth, Minnesota's up 82-76. Close game. Then the Wolves hit 6 straight 3-pointers.
Oh my gosh.
During that same stretch, Oklahoma City makes 1 field goal. Now, I do have to caveat that with they did go 6 of 6 from the free throw line during that stretch, but still 6 straight 3-pointers from the Wolves, blew it open, never looked back. They went off.
Nas Reed, Anthony
Edwards. Everybody. That's the thing too.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a bunch of different guys, not any one person. They only shoot 29%. They only make 10 threes on the whole evening, but 6 of them came in a 3-minute stretch in the fourth quarter.
So let's break this one down a little bit, guys. We found out pregame Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a hip contusion. He suffered last night in Denver. Late scratch, did not play. Did talk to the OKC crowd tonight. Told us to keep it safe and keep it lit. Noted, Shai. Will do. I'm going to write that on my bathroom mirror. Keep it safe, keep it lit.
Taylor, that should have been your intro tonight.
Oh, missed opportunity.
That's good advice for your favorite candle.
Keep it safe, keep it lit.
Yep. So no Shai tonight. And then during the second half, I believe about halfway through the third quarter, Josh Giddey turned an ankle on defense, kind of hobbled. Taylor noticed he was getting checked out by a trainer during a timeout. And then we get the Thunder PR
I don't know.
tweet.
Tim McMahon thinks that the Thunder are just pulling players intentionally. So.
Pulling levers, game 3,
I
baby.
I didn't get that context from those tweets. I don't know.
I'm probably looking a little too far into it, but we can get into that later.
You're just jaded.
Yeah,
that he is.
You're just jaded. So Josh Giddey turned ankle out. So now the Thunder, no Chet, no Shai, no Josh, no J-Dub.
Yep.
4 of my predicted 5 starters back at Summer League.
Dude, seriously though,
Yeah.
That can't be ignored when you look at how bad this game was, right? Like that's a very big deal.
I don't want to make myself sad tonight.
Too late.
I know.
Too late.
I just live with it now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Every game I've watched this team play, I think, man, if they had a 7-foot rim protector, it would be way different. I mean, it sucks.
Changes things just a smidge.
I really want to watch Jet play. It sucks. But so let's dive into this one a little bit, guys. Besides those injuries, I was tweeting the game tonight for us. I know you guys were watching. Horrible start. And that's a theme we're going to talk about here in a bit when we get to our Thunder thoughts. Horrible start where the defense was just absolutely atrocious. I mean, it was just a revolving door to the rim. Like, put those dudes in some tuxedos with the little white napkin hanging over and just gesture them right to the rim. That's what they did for that first
Silver
quarter.
platter.
It was awful. The Thunder once again went to doubling Karl Anthony Towns, which I don't really understand because every time they doubled him, he just threw a swing pass to the opposite side, and Minnesota got a wide open layup or a wide open shot. Just looked really bad. Defense toughened up a little bit as we went on throughout the game. The first quarter was especially bad. The Thunder got outscored 31-18. You're not really going to dig yourself.
Look at this shot chart to illustrate your point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blue dots in the lane right around the basket from the first
they didn't kill you because they got hot from 3. You just gave them everything at the front of the rim, man.
Literally. Like it's all around the rim and then like 1 3 and 1 wing shot and everything else is basically
just in the paint. Yep.
So maybe that's
a 7-foot rim protector might help.
Yeah, it might help that. Exactly. Right. And not Alexei Pokusevsky, who played center there in the third and fourth quarters.
Yeah.
However, I think that's a good transition to the starting lineup for tonight. Obviously, Shea throws a big wrench into things. However, Lou Dort, JRE gets the nod this time. After not getting the nod, the starting nod against the Timberwolves in Game 1, Kenrich gets the nod again, just like he did in Game 1 against the Timberwolves. And then Josh Giddey and Trey Mann, which makes a lot of sense. Trey Mann and their SGA. I think we all predicted that when we got the news about Shea being out. Just really, like you mentioned, Jacob, slow start offensively, but just looks so timid, rigid, no flow whatsoever. It basically was and to his credit, he kept the Thunder in the game because he was able to do this, but basically relying on Josh Giddey being able to get to the rim and him and Trey being able to create for others, which was limited.
It was all bad. I mean, it was just everything in the first quarter was bad. They couldn't score. They couldn't defend.
Yep.
They couldn't do anything. It was just bad. Again, they end the first quarter down 31-18. You're going to have a hard time digging out of that hole. Kieran in the chat says, Gobert just has to pump fake once to get a 6'7" defender in the air. I mean, that's true.
Yep.
How about Jay Will? First, welcome to the NBA. Here's Rudy Gobert. That's a fun assignment.
And he took a charge.
He took it. Very first thing he did is took a charge.
Amen.
On brand.
Right on brand. We got to talk about Luguentz Dort. We gave him player of the game tonight. We tweeted out his image, his little pretty little thing. He posted some stats. He had 20 points. He had 3 rebounds. He had 2 assists. He had 2 steals. He was also 6 of 15, 2 of 7 from 3, and a game worst -29.
Oof.
Yeah.
-29. He played 30 minutes. That was the most on the team. Giddey only with 22, Mann with 28, JRE with 26. I mean, he gets player of the game. If I had to choose a player of the game tonight, I probably would have went with Jeremiah.
Yep.
I thought Jeremiah played well also.
Yep.
Dort just
5 of 6 from the floor, to your point, Jacob, compared to 6 of 15, which isn't terrible. 2 of 7 from 3, though. That's where it gets interesting.
I mean, both those numbers aren't great. You don't like either of those numbers.
They're better in context of the first 2 games. They're not great in context of where you'd like to see both of those numbers.
Lots of forcing by Lou Dort. Lots of forcing. It just it almost feels like palpable.
My question is, do you think that's Dort's decision, or is that something from Daigneault saying like, I want to
had
see you
that
go do
same
this?
question, Justin.
That's
At
interesting.
mid-game.
I don't know.
And that's the interesting thing is we see, and this is a separate topic we'll get into. We won't dive into it here, but just to mention it as a comparison, we see Baisley and Poku get pulled immediately, more defensively and physicality related. But even like Trey Mann will get pulled. Even tonight, we saw him get pulled for making questionable decisions. Where Lou just has this ultimate green light, and maybe that's trust built up. Lou's been here since the CP3 year, 2019, 2020. He's been in big game situations. But man, he's very much playing outside of his role right now. And a lot of that has to do with Shea not being in the game. But even last night, we talked about this on last night's podcast. He's be honed in a bit. And it's interesting to me that Daigneault seems to have these, what's the word I'm looking for? Not restrictions, these rules for other players, but at times it doesn't seem to be quite as applicable to guys like Lou.
That's part of what makes me wonder. Does he have a directive to force some shots? Like he has taken 7 threes in every single Thunder game this season. 6 in the first one, 7 in the next 2. That feels
way too high.
It does feel high, but it feels also like
specific.
Yeah. And I wonder, like,
take Commander Lou Dort.
Everyone's talking about Chip England. We've talked about him a lot with Josh Giddey. JRE mentioned Chip England in the post game. Maybe Chip England's been spending some time with Lou Dort, and maybe what we're seeing. I'm not smart enough to like break down the video. Nick, I know you're watching. This is a good homework project for you. Maybe something's changed with his mechanics or something that he's doing, and they want to go see him work it out on the court. I have no idea. I'm just spitballing. But it definitely, I agree with you, Jacob. It seems like he is calling his own number a lot. And it feels like a weird choice, but maybe there's something there that they want to explore with him. I don't know.
Could be.
I think the interesting, maybe even frustrating thing is like he'll go jack up a terrible 3-point shot or just force a drive into the lane with 2 defenders like Rudy and Cat and throw something up. And the very next play, like, I think this was the second quarter. Correct me if I'm wrong if you guys remember this play, but he drives down to the rim, has a cutting, I believe it was JRE, just a gorgeous no-look shovel pass essentially to a wide open JRE, or maybe it was Kenrich for a wide open layup. It's like you see the positives there, but it's just there's a lot of forced things mixed in with it.
We'll touch more on Dort here in a little bit. To finish up this game, let's talk a little bit about rotations. A few interesting things tonight. Coach talked about this post game. He said they want to get a lot of guys minutes. He's not really playing a rotation right now. He's just getting guys in the game. They're trying to see what works. They
played a lot of guys tonight.
A lot of guys. I think that was part of that 14. Was out of necessity and just out of the garbage time. One thing of significance I thought was tonight was Ousmane Dieng's most minutes in a game. It was also his first game to get minutes in the second half.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Ousmane's most productive NBA game. His stat line isn't anything to like freak out about. He's 2 of 6, 1 of 3 from 3. He had 5 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I mean, kind of filled with stat sheet. Team best plus 15. But I just thought looked a little less lost and a little more intentional out there tonight. That earned him second half minutes. And I thought there were a few plays where guarding like a wing, he just blanketed dudes. Like someone would try to drive on him and he just swallowed them up and made them like reroute them back out to, he like escorted them out of the club basically. He's like a bouncer. Going up against guys like Gobert and Towns, he struggled because he's just not physical and he's a baby. But I thought I saw some good stuff from him tonight. I also think it's interesting that he logged 23 minutes compared to, and we're going to talk about this in a second, Darius Baisley's 4 and Pokashevsky's 13.
Or 13, Yep.
Yep.
Now, we talked about Dieng last night, right? And one thing that you mentioned, I believe, Jacob, was that the game's just moving very fast for him, which is expected coming in as a rookie. Well, Daigneault had a quote about that pregame saying that it's fast for him right now. The foundation for him as a player is he's got to compete and play hard. We're fairly confident in him. Fast forward to tonight, right? And
that isn't. We're fairly confident.
I know we're fairly confident in him.
Bold
you know,
statement.
No, that's like if I go in for heart surgery and the doctor says I'm fairly confident I can do this. I'm not feeling too good.
I did stay.
Probably not moving forward with the procedure. Tonight he looked much more comfortable. The game slowed down for him a bit, and to see that so early. I mean, again, Jake, I actually think I tweeted this out. Like with Oos showing these flashes, I would like to see him chip into some of those Bazley and Poku minutes. Granted, they didn't get much tonight.
It's obvious, the speed of the game is obvious that's a learning curve. But I agree, the fact that he has been able to make some meaningful contributions this early has exceeded my expectations for him when the Thunder drafted him. That block that he had tonight, he jumped so high.
Yeah, it was impressive. I thought it was a goaltend.
I had to watch the replay because watching
Long
it live,
boy.
he didn't seem like he was jumping that high. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like he did it so casually, but when you actually look where his arm is at when he makes contact with the ball, it is so far above the rim. That was like a nice little glimpse of some of his potential of like what he could do if he, gets that adjustment, starts feeling more comfortable. Really, really exciting to get that little flash from Oos.
Agreed. And he's looked a little more comfortable, I think, as a whole, which is exciting to see. And to see him get those minutes in the second half. Some of that, Jake had mentioned that. Some of that is due to Giddey. We'll get into that as well. He's taken out. He's announced out for the game in the third quarter due to that ankle injury, which I found interesting. Like I noticed, I think it was, I don't know, a couple minutes earlier, there was a timeout where I could tell a trainer was going over and kind of looking in that area. So I figured it was probably an ankle injury, and sure enough, it was. I think that's probably why Usman got a little more burn in the second half than maybe he would have if Giddey wasn't there. But he performed really well with that time given to him, and I hope that that earned him some more minutes moving forward.
Well, speaking of, we kind of touched on him a second ago, but Bazley 4 minutes. Poku 13 minutes. Few interesting quotes. Pre-game, coach talked about Poku, said he pulled him early in the third last night and didn't bring him back because of a physicality issue and that he would get another opportunity tonight. And then after the game tonight, he was asked about, pulling guys rather quickly if they're not doing what coach wants them to do. And then there was a follow-up specifically about pulling Bazley. And what Bazley didn't do. And coach kind of got defensive and didn't want to answer. Said he wasn't going to get into specifics about each individual decision and individual players that they have got a lot of guys they want to get in. But guys, I think it comes down to, for Poku, physicality, and for Bazley, just playing like solid basketball. The second half when Bazley got in, back-to-back plays. It was Bazley drive to the rim and just completely smoke a layup off the glass. I thought he had a dunk. He tried to go fancy left-handed and just blasted it off the glass and missed. Got down to the other end, got switched onto Ant Edwards, sagged off 2 steps, and Ant just hit him right in the eye with a 3. Ant Edwards, we haven't mentioned him.
He was phenomenal.
Cooked. He made up for that game 1. I mean, holy cannoli. That was insane. Immediately after that, Bazley to the bench, didn't come back 4 minutes tonight. Poku came back in early in the fourth. I thought played intentionally physical basketball, flew in for an offensive rebound and did some crazy over the back flip shot for a bucket. Tried to be a little more physical on defense at the rim. It wasn't very successful, but you could see it. The physicality one is interesting to me, guys. I kind of want your opinions on this because when Coach Mark says he wants them to be physical, to me, when I look at Poku, being physical has nothing to do with your actual human body. It's a mindset.
Exactly.
Physicality is a mindset, and Poku does not play with that. And when you look at him in comparison to Chet Holmgren, who wants the smoke from literally everyone.
Yep.
There's just a very firm difference. I feel like Jang sometimes doesn't play physical.
Yep.
Baisley has stretches where he does.
Yep.
But it feels right now that outside of the thick boys, as I've nicknamed them, Omarui and Lou Dort,
Yes.
and then Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays physical. Josh plays physical. But as far as the big guys, they don't have guys that want to play physical. I mean, JRE does it, but JRE is the textbook. Let me go put on my hard hat,
Nick Collison,
pack a damn ham sandwich in my metal lunch pail, and
blue collar,
and go work at the construction site and sit on the steel beam while I eat my ham sandwich.
The epitome of Oklahomans, as Sam Presti likes to call it. I think
he's sucking oil out of the ground out of a straw. I mean, he's the epitome of like the hard hat physical kind of guy. But besides that, like their bigs aren't physical.
Yeah.
Muscala, I mean, he had some good flashes tonight and played physical, especially for his size, provided the offensive spark that the Thunder desperately needed all really first half.
But Mike can only, I mean, I love Mike Muscala. He can only give you so much, right?
Right.
Hey, speaking of physical, Mike and Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah, getting after it.
That's like dad getting into his kid a little bit. Old man Mike.
Welcome to the league.
Daigneault just wants guys that got that dog in them.
He does.
What, I mean, but really,
there's a couple of guys on this team that they need to go to the pound. They need to go to the animal welfare center. They need to find a dog because they ain't got one right now.
Their dog's more like a corgi.
No, they got that cat in them. No, goldfish.
He's actually a Timberwolf. Anyway,
that's good.
We
should do a podcast one day about what type of dog each Thunder guy
has. I love it. Love it.
Oh my gosh. That feels like a terrible podcast.
No,
anyway,
it'd be incredible.
That's an off-season pod.
I don't even remember what I was going to say anymore. But
physicality.
I promise it was
Thunder
going to be
physicality.
Great. Jay Will, like you said, first comes in
True.
and immediately tries to take a charge. Got that dog in him.
There's a little bit of dog in there.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say now. What I think is interesting is like you're seeing a much shorter leash with the players this year, and
I love it.
I think it's due to we got some guys on this team actually. Like last year, it's like you had some guys and you had some filler.
Mm-hmm.
And the filler, a lot of them are not in the league. Well, actually, they somehow are in the league, just not valuably. But this year, it feels like there's, if you're not going to get it done, there's someone waiting right behind you on the bench that can go take your minutes. And I kind of love it so far for where this team's at and what they're trying to do. We talked about on our season preview episode that one of the main goals of the season should be player development.
Find out who you got.
Hey, Darius Baisley, you're not getting it done. 4 minutes. Enjoy the bench. We're going to give Oos a chance. We're going to give Jay Will a chance. We're going to give, Aaron Wiggins an extended run. Like there's guys that can come in and take your minutes if you're not going to do something with them. And I think that's very fascinating. I think it's a big bright spot for Daigneault because I don't know that there's a ton of coaches in the league that keep that short a leash. And I think it could be a really beneficial thing for a lot of these young guys' developments in order to understand the expectations. I think we saw it early last year with Trey Mann. That was probably the most that we got to see it. But
we're seeing that treatment on everybody, though.
Exactly.
Daigneault quit school because of recess. He doesn't play games.
Yeah.
He's not playing games. No, and I'm very fascinated to talk about this with you two, the two dads of the podcast, the parents of the podcast, because
it's like I always do with Brooks every night. 7 months old. He should be contributing around this household.
He
doesn't get inside until he crawls to the door.
My like jackassery and jokes out of it for a second. Like I love that style of leadership. Like this is extreme accountability. Daigneault is very clearly saying like, this is what I expect. And if you don't come in and do that, I'm not giving you a second chance. I'm not pulling you to the side and talking to you about it. You do what you're supposed to do or you're gone.
Yep.
Right. And like you guys as parents, me as someone who's in public education, like there's accountability in all those types of things. And this is like an extreme form of that, right? And guys respond to things differently. But to me, it's almost, I don't have a kid, so I don't know what it's like to raise one. But it's very much like I have to teach this lesson, and I have to teach it the hard way. That's the best way, because if I dick around with it now, trying to fix this problem that I've let perpetuate come December or January is way more difficult than fixing it and nipping it in the bud right in this moment. Right. And I find that really fascinating. He's trying to set a culture and a style, and he mentioned post-game, build habits. Mm-hmm. And if you go in there and you aren't doing those things that he wants, you're not building that habit, you have no business being out there. You're only going to be out there if you are actively building towards those habits. And I think it's a very, like, almost like a tough ass way to coach. But I like it, because you can't get away with that if you're coaching the Lakers and you're coaching LeBron and AD and Russ and Dennis Schroeder.
That's what I was thinking, is like the contrast from who we've had as Thunder fans to see in that seat, and the lack of accountability.
Could have used some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Early on
there's a massive gap between what Mark Daigneault is and what Scotty Brooks was.
Talk about Presti learning from his mistakes, right? And I don't mean that like even as a joke or a slight. Like genuinely. Mm-hmm. I think there's a reason we're seeing a coach like Daigneault compared to Scotty Brooks.
And somebody like Scotty Brooks may be better for a more veteran team. But I think when you're trying to develop guys, I mean,
setting that culture is
we're not playing games here. This isn't the pickup gym. We're not going down to the Y and dicking around. Like,
congrats on having talent.
This is legit. You know, you're going to make it or you're going to sink.
Yep. And I think it's important to set that precedent. Set that culture, like you mentioned, Jacob. And you mentioned the fatherhood comparison. The parenthood comparison. I think that's a really good one as well. Like, for example, when Brooks is 3 and able to talk, which is crazy. That's going to fly by. I mean,
it's not going to get there till he's 3.
or whatever. When we're talking like complete sentences, like old enough to really get in trouble.
When he's 17 and he finally takes his first step. No, I hear you. Listen, when my son hits his little sister in the head while they're brushing their teeth, there's a lesson. There's a lesson to be learned. And I'm not comparing full-grown men and NBA players to my 6-year-old son, but I do think that spirit of accountability, it's important, and it's habit building. The theme is there. I think that's a great way to think about it. I think that it'll be interesting to see how that continues, obviously through the rest of this season, but as this team moves forward, if Daigneault is the coach, as these guys grow up and they're stars and they're entering their prime, how does that coaching mindset shift? Does it change a little bit? Or is he like Popovich-esque, where it's like, no, you always have the short leash. It doesn't matter if you're Tim Duncan. I think that'll be interesting to monitor moving forward a little bit.
Totally agree. I just didn't mean to go on the tangent about coaching styles and accountability and leadership, but
it is interesting.
I think it's important, and I love it.
It's interesting too, because there's a little bit of like, I think a disconnect in Thunder fans right now. I think there's some people that are very in on where we're at right now, and the Thunder fans that are not as much on board with where the Thunder are at in their developmental process, I think have issues with Daigneault. And I think that's interesting to me. They see wins, losses, they see blowouts, they see, bad basketball on the court at times. And I think they're missing some of the nuances of things like this. And I think they're important things, and I don't think you can ignore them.
100%. It's interesting. It really is. But I really appreciate it, and I think they're really building a culture with that. We talked a lot about this game. We mentioned some of the rotations. I think we can move on. Justin, I want to spend some of this show on our big weekly show doing some Thunder thoughts. What have we seen from 3 games so far? And then hit around the association as well. We got to talk about the league. Before we do that, though, real quick, we got to tell the people about the sponsors for the week. What's up, Thunder fans? This is Jacob from the Uncontested Podcast, and I'm here to let you know that we have fully redesigned our merch store to get you the best Thunder swag available. Just visit cottonbureau.com and search the Uncontested Podcast to find all of our new designs. That's COTTONBUREAU.com and search the Uncontested Podcast to find new drops like Josh Giddey's Wizard of Oz or an ode to the Trey Man Step Back. We've also got all the classics like Dortal Combat, Liu Tang Clan, and everyone's favorite MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The best part? You can get any design and the style of apparel you want. So if you're gearing up for the summer and want a tank top, needing a hoodie for the winter in Australia, or you're wanting a Pokemon onesie for your baby, we've got you covered. Make sure to go to cottonbureau.com and search the Uncontested Podcast to get your new Thunder gear today. And we are back. Justin, we were just talking about parenthood, and I think Tayler had to make a baby run. So just us two right now. That's okay. I want to talk some Thunder thoughts. We're 3 games into the regular season. I want to talk some big takeaways of what we've noticed. So we can just like ping these back and forth.
Perfect.
You start.
Okay.
A big takeaway that you've noticed from the first 3 games.
I think one that cannot be ignored is the slow starts. We talked about it a little bit specific to this game tonight, but if you look at the 3 games OKC has played so far, they were down 22-35 after the first quarter in game 1. Second game against Denver, the one we watched with our friends at Prairie OKC, was a little better, but they were down 18-9 pretty quick in that one, about halfway through the first quarter. Got it a little close to in the quarter, but definitely like kind of got punched in the face right off the bat. And then tonight they were down 18-31 after the first quarter. This team comes out sluggish. Credit to them. They've gotten it within single digits in all 3 of those games in the second half, but it is interesting. I don't know if it's youth, if that's inexperience, if it's because they're, changing things up with the lineup and kind of trying new things, if it's just because they've played 2 really good teams in those 3 games. It really could be any number of things. But it's popped up enough that it definitely seems like a theme. And I'll be curious to watch if that shows up again on Tuesday against the Clippers or not, because the Clippers are getting their stuff pushed in by the Suns right now.
Oh, are they? I haven't.
They are.
Interesting. Yeah, the slow starts is maybe my biggest takeaway as well. What's the crux? Why do they start so slow? We've seen them fight back. Besides tonight doesn't count. It was a 10-point game. Wasn't really a 10-point game. They never had a chance to win this game tonight.
Yep.
But the first 2, they had opportunities with 5, 4, 3 minutes left in the game to go win the game, and they just weren't able to do it. So it's not like they suck. Like they're pushing back and fighting. Why such slow starts?
I think the defense looks suspect to start every game. And we talked about it tonight. The Timberwolves were getting whatever they wanted at the basket. It felt somewhat similar in game 1. I was enjoying my Prairie Ales a little too much to know whether or not that was the case in Denver as well. But I think that defense is a big part of it. And I think getting shots to fall, it seems like they come out and want to take a lot of threes, and that doesn't always work out super well. Tonight they made 3 out of 3 out of 9 in the first quarter. Not terrible, I guess, but
the
still,
offense feels rigid to me.
Yeah.
In the first quarter, it feels like they're not trying to play natural basketball. It feels like sometimes in practice they'll do like drills where you have to pass the ball 10 times before you shoot or something. or you have
Yep.
to set 5 screens before you shoot.
Yep.
It feels like they're almost doing stuff like that. It doesn't feel natural. It feels very rigid, very forced, very intentional. It's not read and react and play. It's almost like each person is afraid to shoot because they don't want to be like the ball hog or the guy that shoots.
Yeah.
And so they're like overpassing and overthinking, and it just doesn't feel natural. And then they settle in, but I don't know how you get them to settle in from the beginning, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Totally agree. And I think Shea, especially in that first game, he looked off. He missed all of preseason. It's
Mhm.
understandable. I think there's nuances to this. It's only 3 games, but I definitely think there's something to that. It definitely feels kind of like they're thinking too much
Mhm.
versus like kind of getting in more of a flow, which seems to be happening later in the game.
And there are some guys, Shay, Josh, J-Dub, who play more flow-like basketball that I
Yep.
think once they start to catch a groove, we'll see that change a little bit. I wish Tayler was here for me to say this, but I think I see Tayler.
I see his elbow. He
I
might
see,
be
I
coming
see the
soon.
elbow. I think he's about to be back. Oh, no, he's leaving again. Okay. I didn't get to mention this earlier, so I'm going to mention it now. They've had a revolving door at the 4-5 on this team. The lack of physicality in the front court, the lack of size in the front court. I was super stoked on Poku, and then he's really struggled. Is there a chance J-Dub gets a chance to start when he is healthy?
Yes. I'm
starting to really come around on that.
I think not everybody, but we talked about this a little bit last night as well. I think there's 3 starters on this team.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other 2 spots are very open for business. I could absolutely see J-Dub being slotted in at 4 to start the game, and seeing who goes at 5 next to him. Could be JRE, could be Kenrich, could be Poku.
If they started J-Dub and Kenrich in the front court, the national
in
media
the right matchup,
would run with the tank narrative.
In the right matchup.
No, I know.
Listen, Kenny Hustle cannot simultaneously be tank commander and number 1 trade bait. You can't have it both ways.
Touche. So that's maybe my another big one, another Thunder theme from these first 3, these big takeaways, is that revolving door at the 4-5. We've already seen Poku start, JRE start, and Kenrich Williams start. We've only had 3 starters in those 2 positions so far, right?
Yep.
This next week, they have Clippers, Mavericks. I believe that is correct.
Sounds right.
Whenever we are on this show 7 days from now, doing a Sunday show again, how many people have started at the 4/5 for Oklahoma City? We're currently at 3, Poku, Kenrich, JRE.
You're talking in addition to those 3?
In addition to those 3, how many more people are we adding to the list?
Oh, boy. Oh, let's keep it somewhat conservative, because I think it'll be a mix of those 3 primarily.
So do I.
Man,
does Muscala get a start? Does Baisley get a start?
I was going to say that, like, my head is telling me Darius Baisley gets a shot, but man, after tonight, I don't know.
4 minutes, man. Like, I have a hard time.
I'm right there with you.
I think I'm going Muscala gets a shot, and that's probably it. If Dub was healthy, I would throw him in there. Let J-Dub start against like Marcus Morris and the Clippers, or let him start against, I don't even know who plays the 4 for Dallas. But I could see J-Dub, but J-Dub's not going to play this week, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't either.
So I'm going Mike as the only one we add to that list.
I'll buy that.
What if Oos pops?
I was just about to say, could Oos get a shot? That also feels a little bit like a stretch, maybe later in the season.
Yeah.
But I could see him being one of those in that revolving door position. But yeah, it's tough to go from 4 minutes to a starting spot. I don't know that we're going to see Bays get a start this next week.
I have a hard time seeing it. Justin, what is another one of your Thunder thoughts from this first week? Big takeaway from the first 3 games.
We talked about it a little bit again on the breakdown of this game, but Dort's struggles, specifically shooting, have been rough. So looking at the numbers game by game, game 1, 3 of 12 with 1 of 6 from behind the arc. Game 2, 3 of 13, 1 of 7 from behind the arc. Tonight, a little better, 6 of 15, 2 of 7 from behind the arc. That's a lot of shots, and that's a lot of missing for Lou Dort. I think it will be interesting to not only see do the percentages go up, but do the attempt numbers stay the same? Do they go down? Is this a short run experiment? Is this a long-term change? Is this something they want to try out, over 20 games plus this season, where they want Dort kind of, I don't know, handling the ball, kind of creating more? Do they want to see what he can bring to the table there? Is this just something that we're doing for funsies? I think it'll be very interesting to monitor that with Dort moving forward. If I were to guess right now, I think the attempts numbers drop a little bit. I'd say maybe like 2 shots a game, 2 to 3 a game. And
I think especially when J-Dub gets back.
Agreed. And so that's part of what I'm wondering is like, is this just a stopgap? Are they wanting to try something out? I don't know. Yeah. But it's definitely, it's been a little bit tough to watch from Dort. Like you said, felt like pressing. So he'll be one that I'm keeping an eye on this next week for sure.
Dort for the season, 30.8 minutes per game. So nearly 31. He is scoring 14 points, 14.3 points on 13.3 field goal attempts. He's 30% from the field, 20% from 3.
Hey, sounds like a Laker.
Jesus. 5.3 rebounds, 2.7 assists, 1.5 turnovers, 2 steals a game. Second worst on the team at negative 11.3, minus 11.3. Dort has been on the struggle bus. Hopefully he finds his way back. But yeah, I think when J-Dub gets back, when Shea is healthy, whenever this team is back to like a kind of normal rotation, I would rather see Dort taking 10 shots a game, 9 shots a game rather than 13.
Agreed. And even tonight, I think I tweeted this out. I wanted to see Trey Mann get more of those shot attempts compared to Dort. In fact, there was even a stretch there when the Thunder went on a run, probably in the third quarter prior to the Wolves just lighting the nets on fire, where Trey Mann was basically just running pure point guard, right? And it was right after Giddey was announced out, setting up teammates, and also was getting some shots off himself. He was struggling from 3, so he was able to go and get some mid-range shots and drive to the rim. Like, those are the kind of shots you want to see more from Lou, not so much some of the forced stuff that we've been seeing. And the fact that I think the Wolves even knew just to sag off Lou and let him shoot, it's not a good shot, not a good sign. So something to keep in mind for sure. I think that's a good one, Justin.
Tayler, we're talking about our big takeaways from the Thunder's first 3 games, our Thunder thoughts. We've mentioned Lou Dort. Obviously, you just jumped in on that. The slow starts to games, the revolving door at the power forward / center, the front court positions. Yep. What's a big takeaway from you so far in these games?
Maybe an easy transition here. 2 more I'm really thinking of, but I think this one's a good transition because you mentioned Lou's shooting, Justin. But shooting in general, I think is really big for this team. SGA is one I've been thinking of. Again, we won't dive super deep into this one specifically because we talked a lot about it in the last 2 post games. But the fact that he still doesn't have his legs under him, that's shown. He's not shooting well from outside right now, but was still able to score at such a high level, especially like kind of, I mentioned this last night, catching his second wind in the second half. Really, really impressive stuff. But I think about Giddey, and I actually don't have the stats pulled up right in front of me. Maybe you all do. But he's shooting much better from outside. It's still not like fantastic. Tonight, he struggled more than he did the previous 2 games from outside. But that's pretty important. And when you see what Giddey was able to do prior to the injury tonight, driving to the rim and being able to even blow, I think Jacob tweeted this out from the account, blowing by guys like Jaden McDaniels. That's stuff we haven't really seen from Josh Giddey, right? That's a new improved strength. Maybe that's a separate topic on its own. But combined with this new shooting that we've seen from him, working with Chimp England as much as he has, that's really exciting. I think it's only going to not only expand Giddey's game, but open up a lot of things for the Thunder. And the other one, Justin, you mentioned it earlier, JRE obviously had a nice shooting stretch there, I think in the third quarter,
Yep.
and really for the game as a whole. And he credited Chip England as well. So we know he's been spending a lot of time with Giddey, but he's obviously spending time with all these guys. And it's going to be interesting to see kind of when that pays dividends, at which point for each player, if that makes sense. Like Giddey looks like it's happening earlier. But for Lou Dort, to your point earlier, Justin, maybe that's not until later in the season when he has more time with Chip. So it's kind of interesting, something to follow. Shooting in general, it's one of my big takeaways.
That's interesting. Some interesting stats about the Thunder for shooting purposes. Can you guys guess where the Thunder rank in the league in 3-point attempts per game?
Oh, attempts.
7.
I was going to say 10.
Third.
Oh, all right.
They are third behind the
Chucky.
Jazz and the Memphis Grizzlies.
Wow.
The Jazz.
They are slightly ahead of Golden State, Sacramento, Indiana. So interesting. They're taking the third most threes in the league.
What about
so
percentage?
Far. Percentage, they are 25th. No, hold on. 28th.
Wow.
Is that right?
Better
Is that right?
than last season.
No, that's field goal percentage. Let me go 3-point percentage. I'm sorry.
No.
27th.
Wow.
They're ahead of Minnesota, Chicago, and can you guess the worst team in the league shooting threes?
The Lakers.
The Lakers, baby. Lakers.
Oh boy.
Dude, that's nuts.
Yeah. Justin, any other big Thunder thoughts?
No, the only other thing, and we talked about it a lot in regards to this game, so we don't need to dwell on it, but I think the physicality piece, Daigneault stressed it so much. We saw the short leashes. I think that's something to monitor as kind of a big takeaway from all three of the first 3 games. Who can bring it? Who got that dog in them?
I agree. Totally agree. Tayler, Justin and I were talking about this. I want to get your opinion before we move on. Any chance we see J-Dub get a start at the 4 whenever he gets healthy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I very much think so. The fact that we've seen Kenrich. Well, I just like the fact that we saw Kenrich get that nod. I'm not saying that J-Dub would have gotten that if healthy. But I think later on in the season, absolutely. Just getting those guys on the floor. Going back to what you guys mentioned about the physicality, the things that Daigneault is mentioning about, how these young guys can get playing time, just playing hard, playing the right way, fitting into the system, high basketball IQ. These are all things that J-Dub possesses. So any way they can to get him on the floor, and just the versatility that he presents, I absolutely think so. I would actually be surprised if we did not see that.
Interesting. Okay. Are we all done with Thunder thoughts, guys? We ready to move on?
Yeah.
Let's finish this show up with some around the association.
I don't even know where you're sitting at.
I got some categories for around the association tonight, starting the first week of NBA basketball. First one, we got to come to like a consensus on these. I think that makes it fun.
I like it.
Biggest surprise. Which team has been the biggest surprise so far?
This might be pretty easy.
This has to be
The Utah Jazz.
Yeah, it's Utah.
Now, granted, when I was pulling up and looking into Utah, I also saw, and again, this was a team that caught my attention, just not quite as much as the Jazz, due to like all the trades, obviously, that they had in the offseason. But the Trailblazers, a team that we thought, and I still kind of do, that could be one of those teams that would transition into more of a tank later in the season. They're up there with the Jazz at 3-0, top of the West. So those two teams.
Up is down, down is up.
It's very reminiscent of the Thunder post Westbrook PG trade.
Very much.
There's a bunch of dudes on that team, and like they're
not.
solid.
They haven't finished tearing it down. They've just
bingo.
Broken up their dollars into quarters.
Yep.
That's a
PG
good
and
analogy.
Russ.
Yes. I know, right? I'm good at this, Justin.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Biggest disappointment so far.
Oh man, I mean, I'm gonna go even more specific here than just a team. I even tweeted a little bit about this, but
Don't you dare say the
Jacob
Lakers.
Niffen. Oh,
God dang.
you meant in the NBA,
Russell
not this
Westbrook.
podcast.
Look, I think I tweeted out something along the lines of like Russ has always been a lightning rod for criticism, and oftentimes it was undeserved. This time it's pretty deserved, and it's really disappointing just to see Russ like, oh, I was going for the 2-for-1 when there's like 30 seconds left. They're up by 1. He pulls up for the quote unquote what he's always called, him and his father have called when he was growing up, the cotton shot, right?
Yep.
Something he was so effective at his early years in OKC, and it's just so strange to me that something mental is going on there. I think it's a pretty toxic situation for Russ to be in. And as a Russ fan, my favorite player ever, I just really hope that this isn't his last. It won't be his last stop, but hopefully he has one more chapter left where he can go elsewhere and kind of revive this last part of his career. So I think Russell Westbrook in general is my biggest disappointment, but that obviously falls into the big umbrella that is the Los Angeles Lakers.
I think for Russ to have another chapter where he's effective, he would have to accept reality, and he's having a very tough time doing that right now.
It reminds me the closest like recent parallel that I can come up with is Melo.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah,
it was very obvious what Melo needed to do, and Melo didn't want to do it. And eventually he embraced it and had a nice little, finale. Maybe Russ can do the same, but until he does, it's sad.
Yeah,
and it's
really
sad.
bad. Justin, who was your biggest disappointment?
I was gonna say the Philadelphia 76ers.
That was mine too.
Sitting at 0-3.
Joel Embiid looks like he does not care.
Yeah. James Harden's just dribbling, 900
billion times
a game. And that's rough. That's rough out in Philly.
They've played really good teams.
True.
But yeah, they just look bad. And Embiid just looks like he doesn't care. He looks like he wants out of there. And that's a problem.
That's
a massive problem. Massive problem. Best performance. For this one, I was thinking individual, but if you got a team performance, you could go with that as well.
This one's tough because there's been some flashy numbers so far, specifically scoring. Do you have one in mind, Justin?
I do.
I have one too. I bet me and Justin are the same.
I have a player in mind.
Morant.
Jaw going for 49, 8 assists. Yeah. Beating guys shot off the glass, getting shot out of a damn cannon.
Jaw.
I think that's the correct answer.
Jaw doesn't get shot out of a cannon. Jaw gets shot out of like that bunker deep in the mountains that like shoots the nuclear bombs. That's what Jaw gets shot out.
Jaw's a rail gun.
Jaw gets shot out of the thing that not launches cannonballs, but launches missiles across continents.
Nuclear warfare, John Morant.
Oh, man.
I think honorable mention. I think Luka and Giannis both went for 40 points.
Yep.
God, what Giannis did to Houston was illegal.
But the one I was
like
thinking
40 points in 25 minutes.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. Honorable mention to Dame Lillard, who is kind of the reason that the Blazers are 3-0. 41 points October 21st. 41 points tonight against the Lakers. He's on a tear right now. Also, honorable mention to potential rookie of the year candidate, Benedict Mathurin.
Hey, he's been good.
I believe I'm on record on this very podcast saying I kind of liked him better as a prospect than I did Jabari Smith Jr.
Hey-o.
He is.
I am validated in my 1 week sample size.
He is a good basketball player. Best game.
Ooh.
Thunder Nuggets, because we got to watch it with our friends.
Hey, that's a good answer.
The road tanking is the friends you make along the way.
I might go. I mean, Clippers Lakers battle for LA was a pretty fun one. I watched that one. What was that, Thursday night? I'm trying to think of other games that were fun ones that I've actually seen. I mean, Philly Boston opening night was a good one.
Yeah, that was fun.
There was there's two tonight.
The Dallas
Jazz.
comeback, or no, sorry, not the Dallas comeback. The Phoenix comeback against Dallas was a fun one. I think that was like the second night.
Who was the backup point guard who they played?
Damian Lee.
Yeah, Damian Lee. Yeah. Thank you.
Dame time, baby.
There was one the one before the Battle of LA. Why am I going blank on this? I thought that was a really good game. Gosh,
Was
I
that
can't
Boston?
remember.
No, that was Philly, Milwaui, right?
Yeah, Philly, Milwaukee.
Yep.
That was another good
fun.
one. Some big Titans going at it, and then the Los Angeles Lakers. They suck, dude.
It's so
It makes me
bad.
so mad that the Pelicans are going to end up with Victor Wembanyama
Yep.
because they have the Clippers pick or
Just
the
a
Lakers
top 10
pick.
pick in
pick,
general.
yeah.
Or lottery pick in general.
Biggest expectation shift from preseason or
Ooh,
even
this
before
one's tough.
preseason. Which team have you looked at and said, wow, that they better, worse, but my expectations has taken the biggest jump. There's a few interesting candidates here. So I'm interested to see who you guys think.
The Jazz are an easy one. We've already talked about them.
See, my expectations haven't shifted for the Jazz. I think they're still going to end up tanking
That's
and
fair.
sucking.
Yeah, I do
Um,
too.
That's
But
fair.
We've already mentioned one of mine, which is Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte's at 2-1 and smoked the Hawks tonight.
I was thinking Charlotte and the
Yeah.
Spurs are two more.
Oh, I
interesting
don't
ones for me.
know. Spurs don't do it for me.
What about the Kings at 0-3?
They've been
Ooh,
competitive
that's a good
though.
one.
They've
That's
been
fair.
competitive.
That's fair.
Another team we mentioned that my expectations kind of shifted on. Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. that's a good
Taylor
one.
mentioned them. They look good, especially when they bench Nurkic, which I like because I'm not a Nurkic fan.
I got one more too, and this is more of in a negative sense. But the Phoenix Suns, I know they came back and beat the Mavericks, then they end up losing again. Super small sample size. We're talking 2 games here.
They're
and
up
they play
big
the
on the
third.
Clippers right now.
Oh,
for what
okay.
it's worth.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, so that would be their third.
I think some people would say New Orleans, but I thought New Orleans would be good.
Yeah.
They lost to the Jazz tonight, but they've been awesome. Like
Yeah.
B.I., C.J. McCollum, Zion got hurt tonight. So if you got to take a drink every time Zion's hurt, you might as well go and buy your coffin now. But last one, you're way too early MVP.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Benedict
That's
Mathurin,
tough.
obviously.
Obviously.
Shut
Obviously. Wow. That's a fun
Oh.
one. It's hard in just 3 games, but Jason Tatum, I think
Tatum
is who I'm going
averaging
with right now.
35 points a game on 21 shots, 59% from the
Pretty
field,
good.
33% from 3, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and nearly 2 blocks. He's absurd.
Absurd.
Luka's still got to be up there. I mean, he's putting up ridiculous stats. Same for Giannis. I think
Dame's
he'd
been
go either of
insane.
those.
Giannis has been good.
Trying to think of like a off the wall. Oh, Donovan Mitchell has been fantastic with
He
the
has.
with the Cavs.
That's a good one. He was getting MVP chance tonight in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Of course
see?
he would, though.
Of course
Like, I'm
he
not
would.
the shit on Cavs fans, but like, you got to gas up your guy that you just
True,
traded
that's
for.
right.
True.
That's right. Yeah.
So we
Shay's
don't hear
still, sitting,
MVP
Shay's
chants
still
for
sitting
Shay.
at 10th in the league in scoring. So you got to love that.
Solid.
Got to love it. Yeah, I think Jason Tatum right now is my MVP vote.
Indubitably.
Guys, any other thoughts before we get out of here?
One guy we didn't mention, Paul George, been playing well. And the
All
Thunder
right,
get to
I'm
face
pumping
him
the outro
twice
music
next
now.
week.
We're not talking about Paul George here.
Taylor's just gassing up week at the Paycom Center.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We really appreciate you. It's been a busy week for the Uncontested. The watch party last night was incredible. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We've got a full week planned for you guys. Tuesday night, we have the Thunder versus the Clippers at home. I believe Taylor is covering that one for you guys. Thursday night, it's the Clippers at home. Again, part 2, the sequel. JD will be covering that one for you. Taylor and I will be at that game live, where my guy Taylor is going to be wearing his Paul George jersey. He's already gassing him up here on the show. He's going to be cheering on Paul George that night for a bet he lost against me. Saturday, we have Justin covering the Thunder versus the Mavericks. I got to get a little shout out to myself. Saturday I will not be watching because it's my 1-year anniversary.
Very cool.
Together 11 years, married for 1. You just got to make sure, man. You gotta give it a decade to
Pace
make sure it's the
yourself.
right person, you know?
Good rule
And
of
then-
thumb.
And then Sunday, we are right back here again for your weekly show, 9 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you join us there. Folks, stay safe, stay lit. And as always, thunder up.